Fun with English language tricks. Contractions. Apostrophe D. Would or had. Please don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe. Apostrophe D. Would or had. The contraction apostrophe D can mean would or had, depending on the meaning of the sentence and on the grammatical form that follows it. Apostrophe D meaning would. Original sentence. I would like coffee, please. After contraction, I'd like coffee, please. Note 1. Usually would is followed by the bare infinitive base form of the verb. Example, would study, would travel. Apostrophe D meaning had. Original sentence, I had seen him before he arrived. After contraction, I'd seen him before he arrived. Note 1. Usually had is followed by the past participle of the verb. Verb 3. Example, had talked, had written. Would with pronouns. Example, I'd, I would, he'd, he would, she'd, she would, it'd, it would, we'd, we would, they'd, they would, you'd, you would. Examples of would. I'd travel if I were you. He'd rather study than watch TV. We'd prefer to go to the cinema. It'd be great if you visited her. They'd be very happy if you called Jack. Had with pronouns. Example, I'd, I had, he'd, he had, she'd, she had, it'd, it had, we'd, we had, they'd, they had, you'd, you had. Examples of had. He'd traveled when I called him. I'd arrived before the train left. We'd locked the door when we left. I wish I had waited longer. Or I wish I'd waited longer. I thought you'd met her before. Would. Note 2. Sometimes would is used without being followed by the base form of the verb. Example, I'd rather you stayed at home. It's midnight. Had. Note 2. Sometimes had is used without being followed by the past participle form of the verb. Example, you'd better be on time. Note 3. Contractions are more frequently used in speaking and informal writing. We do not use contractions in academic or formal writing. Exercise. Is apostrophe D would or had? 1. I'd prefer to eat at home. Would. 2. He was very tired because he'd worked all day. Had. 3. He'd been a teacher before he became a school director. Had. 4. I'd rather go by bus. Would. 5. They'd give her a good salary if she worked hard. Would. 6. I wish I'd studied harder. Had. 7. She'd be glad to hear from you. Would. 8. If I were rich, I'd help the poor. Would. 9. He told me he'd go to France. Would. 10. I wish I'd stopped smoking. Would. 11. He'd left before I arrived. Had. 12. It'd be great if you visited him. Would. 13. If you invited her, she'd come. Would. 14. He'd been living in England before he moved to the United States. Had. 15. He'd have invited her if I'd seen her. Excuse me. I'd have invited her if I'd seen her. Would for the first part of the sentence, had for the second part of the sentence. 16. I'd read the story before I saw the film. Had. 17. You'd better study hard. Had. 18. She promised she'd be on time. Would. 19. When Jim was angry, he'd walk out of the room. Would. 20. I'd better walk to the bank now. Had. 21. I wish I'd taken their advice. Had. 22. I'd read fiction books if I had time. Would. That's it for now. Please don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe. Arabic translation will follow.